Hey there, just doing another video in regards to my 2019 QX80. Um, I was having, when I bought this, I knew that a couple issues they said that I'd seen were there might be some starter issues and battery issues. Now, we haven't had a lot of starter issues, but it seemed to me like the starter was starting to go because it was having some slow starts, or there was sometimes we had to crank it a couple times to get it going. And we were going to go on a long road trip, and I just figured I didn't want to be away stranded with the starter going, so I thought I'd be a little proactive and replace the starter before we went on that trip. So went on Amazon and bought a starter for a couple $100. So it was easy to get the starter. What the issue was is actually installing it. So usually for most vehicles, the starter's just up underneath the engine. Um, it's pretty accessible. It's a couple bolts. It honestly probably take 15 minutes usually to take it out. A couple bolts and a clip, a couple wires, and that's it. When I went online to see where this one was, it's actually quite insane. So I'm not a mechanic. I just do basic stuff to my vehicles, brakes. I can do brakes and oil changes and things like that. So I'm just kind of giving a heads up to anyone that, I figure if anyone's got a little bit of experience with some vehicles, you can do it yourself, but just be prepared that it's going to take a bit of time and energy into doing it. So I should have taken a video while I was doing it, but I didn't know what I was in for, and it's just really hard to video record while you're doing stuff. So I'm going to try to tell you as best as I can on what you're in for if you do decide to change the starter yourself. This is just the cover that's on top of the engine. It's just a couple bolts, you do that. But once you get that off, the starter is actually down underneath the manifold, like sitting on top of the engine almost. So, like, I've never seen a starter that inside of an engine is what I have with this one. So you basically got to take your air filter off. It's just the clips there and this connection here. What I also did, there's a lot of clips and stuff you have to disconnect. A lot of these connections, electrical connections. So what I did, just because I don't get the best memory, every time I unclipped one, I put a piece of green painter's tape on this side, and I just marked it simple. Like if this was the first one I took off, I marked on the piece of tape number 1, and then I put a piece of tape here saying number 1. Now I know it's pretty obvious that when you get that, that's probably going to connect to that. But there's a lot of hoses and clamps and stuff. So like I said, I did that with that one. Start number 1. Then there's a bunch of hoses down here you have to disconnect. So, I did this one number 2 and put 2 on this, 2 on that, and then, 3 and 3. Like I said, as you're going along, you'll realize there's a lot of hoses and clamps. I think at the end I was up to number 12 or something. I can't quite remember, but I think so. So take that off, take your filter off. Once you get in here, this here is hooked up to refrigerant. Now, everything I read, you really don't want to get into the refrigerant lines. So if you look right here, there's refrigerant lines hooked up to it. You don't want to disconnect those because there's coolant and all that into it. So you can take this off. It's just got 4 bolts. One's here, actually. One's right there. And then there's one here. There's one on each corner. You can take those off, and you can easily pull this off and just kind of lay it to the side. That way you don't have to get in regards to the refrigerant and stuff. And it makes it so much easier. It worked for me. But just be careful because there's some electronics and stuff in there. You don't want to bang around too much. There's like another hose there. You'll find some more hoses inside. Then there's I think 8 bolts for your manifold. So there's 4 on this side, and there's 4 on this side over here. These 4 were easy to get out. On this side, there was 4. 3 of them were easy to get out. There's one, actually you can see it right there. That one right there is really hard to get at. There's just not a lot of clearance and stuff. It really isn't. So that one was the hardest one to get at, but you are able to get at it. What I did is, once I got everything off and disconnected, I left that one till the end. And this big wire assembly here is what the issue is. It's really hard. It's got no play whatsoever, and it's really hard to move. So I actually took some big zip ties I put around it, and I used something as actually I think I used the anchor point, this one up here, and I wrapped around it, and I just started tightening up on the. And you don't need a lot. It gave me probably an inch or two clearance extra, and you get this pulled over as tight as you can, and it'll give you a little bit more playing room to work with. But once you got those bolts out, you lift the whole manifold up. You have to be careful because there's like seals around each intake that you got to make sure you don't mess up. But right down in there on top, in between your engine, is where your starter is. And once you get that cover off, you can see the starter pretty easy and you get at it. I did have to like basically lay up on the engine bonnet though, because it's so high up. And that honestly didn't take much to get out. That might have taken 10 minutes once I got in there to be able to take it out. And then it was easy to put everything back together. It really was. The whole job took me a couple hours to do. And like I said, I'm not a mechanic, so I'm sure somebody could probably do it in a heck of a lot less time. But for me, it took a couple of hours, just because I wanted to be careful to make sure I was doing everything right and not rushing the job where I never did it before. Now, I will say this, after I got the starter in, I didn't notice a huge difference in the vehicle when I was starting it, which was a little disappointing because I was for sure that might have been it. Now, mind you, we went away on our trip and we came back and everything was fine. But it ended up being something else later on. So I actually did another video in regards to my battery and a module that's in here. So if it's something else other than your starter, you might want to watch the other one in regards to the battery and that module. But hopefully this video was somewhat of a help, or at least it gives you some encouragement to go and switch out the starter yourself if you got a little bit of experience at it. Like I said, I think honestly anyone with a little bit of knowledge could go ahead and do it if they just take the time and label everything properly. And hopefully this video was a help to you.